The beginning of the chapter is about Yor getting to know the notoriety of Miss Desmond, which makes their meeting even more important to the story. Yor is telling the story of their encounter to Lloyd and Anya, and Melinda gives the impression of a scary lady with a strange aura. In one panel, she's trying to reassure Yor about Anya's wrongdoing, and the other, she has a dead stare, which gives strong villain energy. Other than that, we get to learn that the Desmond family has a hands-off parenting philosophy, which I presume is a philosophy that is used to leave a distance between the parents and the children. That doesn't surprise me one bit, and it definitely explains Damien's lack of warmth and cocky attitude. The scary part about the exchange is that Melinda becomes more curious about Yor now that she knows that her kid slapped Damien, her child, even though she pretended that she doesn't care. Melinda later confirms one thing about their meeting. She knew who was Yor already and invited her to her social circle. It is most definitely suspicious, and something close to a setup. And the next scene, and Melinda's, who earlier in her life was the first lady, call, she yet again brings up Damien in the conversation, but this time she takes a more positive stance and acknowledges that he might get along with Anya. The thing that I don't get is that weird expression that she grimaced about them being friends. So, for me, it could get in two ways. Either Melinda hates the fact that a noble family like hers has ties with commoners through her son, or perhaps she would have really liked to be more present in Damien's life, to see for herself how her son was able to make up with Anya. In other words, she is jealous of the complicity that Yor seems to have with her child. Immediately after, Lord states that Wise established Melinda as a high-risk, low-reward personality. She seems to keep her distances with politics and even more so with the rest of her family. I find it strange that Wise did not find anything worth reporting about her. Who knows, just like Lloyd, having a perfect record might cause some suspicion to arise. For example, she might be one of the scientists who experimented on Anya, which would explain why Miss Desmond is so curious about her. Yet, she seems kinda stressed about her being friends with Damien, because it would mean that she would have to face Anya at some point. And knowing that she can read minds, Melinda fears the worst. That's my headcanon anyway. Beyond that, Lloyd is pretty torn on meeting or not Melinda, sensing some kind of setup from her, but not knowing why. Ultimately, it appears that he let his wife have another meetup with the former First Lady under some false family sayings. The kind of analysis that Lloyd just laid reminds me of the earlier chapters of Spy X Family, where Lloyd fixed every emotion and line of dialogue in his catalog to get his way. His manipulation really bloomed in this chapter, and almost every page up until that point has been mostly filled by text, to my surprise. To get back to the main point, Lloyd is taking a risk here and hopes that Melinda has no ulterior motives, as it will make their family less suspicious. However, in case things might go south, he will protect Yor. It's such a tiny detail, but the fact that he interrupted his own thought by the use of the hyphen to say that he will be ready to protect Yor is a proof to the non-believers that he genuinely, at the very least, likes Yor. To this whole mind escapade is born Plan C, the Mummy Friend scheme, where Lloyd states that this could be an even more direct route than Plan B, the friendship scheme. Anya takes this very seriously because it might mean her getting abandoned from the family, which then boosts her morale to perform better at school. And parallel, York contacts the shopkeeper, and now we can finally address the elephant in the room of this chapter. The shopkeeper has no problem with the Thorn Princess being friends with Melinda, but her being a conservative causes him to not recommend it. He mentions a procedure to Yor if something was to go wrong with their relationship. That gave humongous, ominous vibes because the procedure was made between a void and dialogue. Thus, we can only imagine what it would signify. I am pretty sure that it's about murdering the whole Desmond family tree though. Now, the most interesting fact is shopkeeper arising some suspicions about Lloyd for the reason that yours stated that he was interested in Mr. Donovan's political party, which could practically mean that he is as radical as Mr. Desmond. Well, for myself and a lot of people, this is foreshadowing to the confrontation between Lloyd and Yor. This theory is so popular because it makes a lot of thematic sense. By making Lloyd and Yor fight, we can now clash their interests on the importance of a family and testing the resilience of their feelings towards each other. It's a good way to get an interesting fight between two ways to maintain peace: assassination and spying, as well as cementing the importance of their job over their self-interest. If one of them die, then the whole family meant nothing to them, and that makes for a nice ending for the manga, though dramatic for a comedy. If they both survive, we will get a heartwarming moment and probably a satisfying conclusion. Lastly, we could finally close the theme of identity in the story. Indeed, all of the main characters are lying to each other to their very core, yet, in a lot of occasions, their chemistry seems genuine. Thus, I believe in this theory because it can only make things interesting. In the end, to balance the amount of seriousness, we get to see Anya at school. The little girl is trying to save Plan B on her own, so she takes some advice from Becky to get closer to Damien. She tries to bump him with a slice of yakisoba in her mouth to create a cliche connection between them. But Anya instead tries to bash him and promptly fails due to Damien's dodge. In the end, she gets so mad that the yakisoba launches itself from her mouth to catch Damien in its delicious mess. I find it funny that the little boy looks like he has the same little horns that Anya possesses, and also the fact that Anya worsened her relationship with Danya, ironically to her efforts. All in all, this chapter is serious business, because Yor finally has a connection to the main plot. Melinda will probably be a main thread from now on, and the shopkeeper will get involved in Lloyd's life, somehow by making sure that he doesn't bond too much with Mr. Donovan, or that he doesn't join his party. I think it would be the most logical thing to do, given Desmond's party. In a way, that is exactly what Lloyd would have done if the role in the story switched between the shopkeeper and Lloyd's role. So I can't wait to see the chess pieces move in the story. Thank you for listening to me, guys.